Here is something that confuses people. Ayn Rand wrote some of the most powerful female characters in literature. Dagny Taggart running a transcontinental railroad. Dominique Franken refusing to be anyone's second choice. Women who take what they want and bow to no one. But when someone asked her about women's liberation in 1981, she said it was a very false and funny issue. She called feminists out for demanding government handouts and quotas. She rejected the whole movement. So which is it? Did Ayn Rand champion women or dismiss them? The answer is both, and the distinction matters more than you think. Because right now, you're watching two forces collide. On one side, you've got the feminist movement telling women they're victims who need special protection, government intervention, and lower standards to succeed. On the other side, you've got Rand saying, no, women are human beings. They don't need special treatment. They need the same thing men need: freedom. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why Rand rejected feminism while writing the strongest female characters in modern fiction. You'll see what she actually believed about women's capabilities, why she despised the victim mentality, and how her position is more relevant today than it was 40 years ago. By the end, you'll understand the difference between championing women and championing weakness. Here's why people get confused. When they hear Ayn Rand rejected feminism, they think she must have been against women's rights. They assume she wanted women barefoot in the kitchen, stuck in traditional roles, denied opportunity. That's the automatic association. If you're not a feminist, you must be against women. This is exactly the false choice that modern culture hands you. You're told you have to pick. Either you support the feminist movement with all its baggage, or you're a misogynist who wants to hold women back. There's no middle ground. No room for saying, I support women's capabilities but reject victimhood politics. And this confusion does real damage. Because when people see Rand's rejection of feminism, they dismiss everything else she said about women. They never get to her actual position. They never read The Fountainhead and see Dominique Franken refuse to compromise her standards for anyone. They never read Atlas Shrugged and watch Dagny Taggart outthink and outwork every man around her, not because she as a woman, but because she's competent. They miss the entire point. Here is what actually happened. Ayn Rand rejected feminism because she saw it for what it was, a movement that infantilized women by treating them as perpetual victims who needed government protection to compete. She saw feminists demanding quotas, special treatment, and lower standards. She saw them claiming women couldn't succeed without institutional help, and she called that insulting. Because Rand believed women were fully capable human beings who didn't need a rigged game. They needed the same thing men needed: freedom to compete, freedom to fail, and freedom to succeed based on their own merit. But the feminist movement told women, you're oppressed. You can't make it on your own. You need us to force companies to hire you. You need laws to protect you. You need government to level the playing field. Rand looked at that and said, you're making women weaker. That's the problem we're dealing with. People confuse support for women with support for a specific political movement. And when you reject the movement, they think you reject the women. So let's get clear on what Ayn Rand actually said. In that 1981 interview, someone asked her, why don't we have strong women leaders? And they framed it as a women's liberation issue, like women needed special leadership to compensate for cultural barriers. Here's what Rand said, and I'm quoting, women are human beings, so they need leaders just like men. There is no such thing as specifically a leader of women, just as it would be ridiculous to say you have leaders of only men. Stop there. That's the foundation. Women don't need women's leaders. They need competent leaders, period. The gender doesn't matter. The competence does. Rand refused to put women in a separate category that required special handling, special advocacy, or special protection. She continued, women, intellectually, are not the inferior of men. Of course not. But physically, they certainly are, and this is where people lose their minds today. But Rand's just stating reality. She's not saying women can't do intellectual work, run companies, or lead nations. She's saying you're probably not going to see women as longshoremen or professional football players, and that's fine. Physical difference doesn't mean intellectual inferiority, but here's where it gets critical. The interviewer pushed back. But women have been denied jobs all these years. Isn't the feminist movement just trying to compensate and break those barriers? And Rand said, they are asking for government power and government handouts. They go around depriving men of jobs because you have to have a quota of so many women. You don't fight an evil by adopting it and practicing it. There it is. That's the core of her rejection. Part 1. Feminism trades merit for quotas. Rand saw feminists demanding that companies hire women not because they're the best candidate, but because they're women. She saw them pushing for laws that forced equal outcomes instead of equal opportunity, and she said, that's discrimination. You're just reversing the injustice, not ending it. If it was wrong to deny a woman a job because of her gender, it's equally wrong to give her a job because of her gender. Both ignore the only thing that should matter. Can she do the work? Part 2. Feminism treats women as victims who need rescue. The feminist movement's entire pitch was, women are oppressed. They can't succeed in the current system. They need institutional support to compete. Rand found that insulting. Because when you tell women they need government intervention to succeed, you're saying they're not capable of succeeding on their own. You're saying the game is rigged and they're too weak to fight it. You're making weakness the identity, and Rand believed that was a lie. Women aren't weak. They're not victims. They're rational beings fully capable of pursuing their own goals if you leave them free to do it. Part 3. The right approach is education and competition, not force. When the interviewer asked, so what should women do? Be nice little girls and stay home? Rand said, no. They should go into any career of their choice and fight for their career as every man has to fight. Fight, not demand, not lobby for quotas. Not cry victim. Compete. Earn it. Prove your value. Build your competence. That's how you break barriers, not by forcing people to lower them for you, but by being so good they can't ignore you. Here's what Rand's position is not. It's not saying women should accept discrimination. It's not saying barriers don't exist. It's not saying women should shut up and be grateful. It's saying, if you want respect, earn it the same way anyone earns it, through competence, not through government force. Let's see what this looks like in practice. Because the difference between Rand's position and modern feminism isn't just philosophical, it changes how you handle real situations. Application 1. The workplace promotion. Sarah's been at her company for 3 years. She's competent, delivers results, and wants a senior position that just opened up. There's another candidate, Michael, who's also qualified. Here's where the approach is split. The feminist approach says, Sarah, you're a woman in a male-dominated field. The deck is stacked against you. We need to make sure you get fair consideration. We should push for diversity hiring policies. Maybe advocate for a quota system so they have to hire more women at senior levels. The message underneath? You can't win on merit alone. You need institutional help. Rand's approach says, Sarah, you want that promotion? Make yourself the obvious choice. Document your results. Build relationships. Show them what happens when you're given responsibility. And if they pass you over for legitimate reasons, like Michael has more experience or better results, accept it and get better. But if they pass you over because you're a woman, leave and find a company that values competence. The difference? Rand assumes Sarah can win. Feminism assumes she can't, and here's what matters. If Sarah gets the job through a quota system, everyone knows. Her competence is questioned. Her authority is undermined. She spent the next year proving she actually deserved it, or worse, never proving it because she didn't deserve it. But if Sarah gets it through demonstrated competence, nobody questions it. She earned it. Rand would tell Sarah, don't ask for special treatment. It's an insult to your capabilities. Compete and win. Application 2. The family dynamic. Jennifer is 28. Her family keeps pressuring her about marriage and kids. You're not getting any younger. Don't you want a family? Career isn't everything. You need to think about what really matters. The feminist response is, you're being oppressed by patriarchal expectations. Women have been forced into traditional roles for centuries. You need to reject these gender norms and assert your independence. Don't let them guilt you into motherhood. This frames Jennifer as a victim of cultural conditioning who needs to resist oppression. Rand's response is different. What do you want, Jennifer? Not what your family wants. Not what society expects. What do you value? If you want a career and no kids, pursue it not as rebellion but as your choice. If you want both, figure out how. If you want to be a full-time mother, do that. The point is, it's your life. You don't owe anyone an explanation, and you don't need permission to live it. Notice the difference. Feminism tells Jennifer she's oppressed and needs to fight the patriarchy. Rand tells Jennifer she's free and needs to own her choices. Feminism makes it about women versus society. Rand makes it about Jennifer versus her own goals. And here's what's critical. If Jennifer pursues her career as an act of feminist rebellion, she is still letting others define her life. She's just rebelling against their expectations instead of pursuing her own values. That's not freedom. That's reactive living. But if Jennifer pursues her career because it's what she genuinely values, she's free. She's not fighting anyone. She's living for herself. Application 3. The relationship boundary. Lisa's dating Tom. He's been making subtle comments about her ambition. You work too much. You're always focused on your projects. Don't you think relationships need more attention than this? The feminist interpretation. Tom is threatened by your success. He wants to control you and keep you small. This is what men do. They can't handle strong women. He's exhibiting toxic masculinity. The Randian interpretation. Tom is showing you who he is. He values a partner who prioritizes the relationship over individual achievement. You value a partner who respects your ambition. You're incompatible. Move on not because he's toxic, but because he's not your match. See the shift? Feminism turns it into a gender war. Tom represents all men who fear strong women. Lisa represents all women oppressed by male insecurity. Rand turns it into an individual compatibility issue. Tom wants X, Lisa wants Y. These are incompatible values. Neither is oppressed. They're just wrong for each other. And this matters because the feminist framing keeps Lisa stuck in victim mode. She'd date other ambitious men and interpret every conflict as evidence of patriarchal oppression. She never just admit, some people aren't compatible, and that's fine. But the Randian framing lets Lisa move forward. She sees Tom clearly, recognizes the mismatch, and finds someone who shares her values. No drama. No oppression narrative. Just clarity. Now let's handle the pushback. Because Rand's position gets two major objections, and both need answers. Objection 1. But women do face real discrimination. You can't just ignore systemic barriers. Fair point. Let's be clear, Rand never denied that discrimination existed. She acknowledged that women had been treated unfairly. The question isn't whether barriers exist, it's how you respond to them. Here's Rand's answer. You fight discrimination by proving it wrong, not by demanding protection from it. When someone refuses to hire a woman because she's a woman, that person is being irrational. They're ignoring her actual capabilities in favor of a prejudice. And irrational decisions create opportunities because while they're refusing to hire competent women, their competitors will. Look at what happened in tech over the past 30 years. Companies that refused to hire women programmers lost talent to companies that didn't care about gender. The market punished discrimination not because of quotas, but because competence wins. But here's where Rand goes further. Demanding quotas and special treatment doesn't eliminate discrimination. It confirms the prejudice. Because now when a woman gets hired, people wonder, did she get it because she's good, or because they needed to fill a quota? You do and fight women can't do this job by saying hire women anyway. You fight it by pointing at the women who are already doing the job better than men. You make the prejudice look stupid through demonstration, not legislation. Rand would say, yes, discrimination exists. And the solution is competition, not special treatment that makes people question your competence. Objection 2. This sounds like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and ignores power structures. Here's where people really misunderstand Rand. She's not saying barriers don't matter. She's not saying everyone has equal starting points. She's saying your response to barriers determines whether you're free or not. When you approach obstacles as a victim who needs rescue, you're giving away your power. You're saying, I can't succeed unless institutions change to accommodate me. You're making your success dependent on forces outside your control. But when you approach obstacles as challenges you can overcome through effort and competence, you keep your power. You're saying, yes, this is harder than it should be, but I can do it anyway. Your success depends on you. Let me give you a concrete example. Two women enter a male-dominated industry, let's say engineering in the 1980s. Both face the same discrimination, the same skepticism, the same barriers. Woman A says, this system is rigged against me. I need advocacy groups, diversity initiatives, and government intervention to succeed here. Without institutional support, I'm stuck. Woman B says, these guys doubt me because I'm a woman. Fine, I'll be so good they can't ignore me. I'll outwork them, outthink them, and earn their respect through results. Fast forward 10 years. Woman A is still advocating for change, still talking about barriers, still dependent on institutional support. Her career is tied to political movements and company policies that could change at any time. Woman B is a senior engineer whose competence is undeniable. She didn't wait for the system to change, she built her success inside the system that existed. Rand would say, Woman B is free. Woman A is still chained to victimhood. And here, that's the key. This doesn't mean the barriers Woman B faced were fair or right. It means she refused to let those barriers define her capabilities or limit her actions. That's not bootstraps rhetoric. That's self-determination. It's refusing to trade your agency for sympathy. Let me show you what this shift looks like in real life. Before, meet Rachel. She's 32, works in finance, and she's stuck. She has been at the same associate level for 4 years while men who started after her got promoted. And she has an explanation ready. It's the old boys club. They don't take women seriously here. They golf together, they grab drinks, they make decisions without us in the room. I've tried everything, but the system is rigged. Rachel joins women's networking groups. She advocates for diversity initiatives. She talks about unconscious bias in meetings. She frames every setback as evidence of systemic discrimination. And here's what happens. Nothing changes. Because Rachel has made herself a victim of circumstances she can't control. She's waiting for the company to fix its culture. She's waiting for policies to change. She's waiting for men to recognize their bias and step aside. She's given away all her power. Her colleagues see her as the woman who complains about fairness instead of delivering results. Her managers see her as someone focused on process instead of outcomes. And Rachel sees herself as stuck behind barriers she can't overcome alone. 5 years pass. She's still at the same level, still talking about the system, still waiting for change. The shift. Then Rachel reads Atlas Shrugged, and something clicks. She sees Dagny Taggart dealing with incompetent men, outdated systems, and constant resistance, and Dagny doesn't wait for anyone to fix it. She doesn't form committees or demand special consideration. She just outworks everyone and makes herself indispensable. Rachel realizes, I've been asking permission to succeed. I've been waiting for the system to validate me. I've been acting like I need them to change before I can win. She decides to stop. Here's what Rachel does differently. First, she stops talking about barriers and starts talking about results. In meetings, she doesn't mention bias or diversity. She presents data, solutions, and outcomes. She makes herself valuable, not sympathetic. Second, she stops waiting for invitations. The men golf together? Fine. She starts scheduling coffee meetings with senior leaders not to talk about women in finance, but to discuss deals, strategies, and opportunities. She builds relationships through competence, not gender solidarity. Third, she stops framing setbacks as discrimination. When she gets passed over for a project, she doesn't assume it's because she's a woman. She asks what she's missing, what skills she needs to develop, what results she needs to demonstrate. And here's what happens. Everything changes. Within 18 months, Rachel gets promoted not because of a diversity initiative, but because she made herself the obvious choice. She delivered a major deal that others thought was impossible. She built relationships with clients who specifically requested her on their accounts. She proved her value undeniably. But more importantly, something internal changed. Rachel is no longer waiting for permission. She's not wondering if the system will let her succeed. She knows she's competent, and she's betting on herself instead of betting on institutional reform. 3 years later, Rachel is running a team. And when younger women ask her advice about navigating a male-dominated industry, here's what she tells them. Don't wait for the system to be fair. Don't ask for special treatment. Don't make your gender your identity. Make yourself so good they can't ignore you. That's freedom. Everything else is dependence. That's the transformation. From victim waiting for rescue to individual creating her own success. From demanding the system change to succeeding within the system that exists. From asking, why won't they let me? To declaring, watch me do it anyway. That's what Rand meant when she championed women. Not women as a protected class. Women as competent individuals who don't need anyone's permission to be great. So here's what we've covered. Ayn Rand rejected feminism not because she was against women, but because she refused to treat women as victims who needed government protection to compete. She saw the feminist movement asking for quotas, special treatment, and lower standards, and she called that insulting. Because Rand believed women were fully capable human beings who didn't need a rigged game. They needed what everyone needs: freedom to compete, freedom to fail, and freedom to succeed based on merit. She wrote Dagny Taggart and Dominique Franken not as symbols of strong women, but as examples of what rational individuals look like when they refuse to compromise. Gender wasn't their identity, competence was. And that's the distinction that matters. Supporting women means believing in their capabilities. Feminism, as Rand saw it, meant treating them as perpetually oppressed victims who couldn't succeed without institutional help. One approach empowers, the other infantilizes. Here's your challenge. Look at your own life. Are you approaching obstacles as barriers that require external intervention, or as challenges you can overcome through your own effort? Are you waiting for systems to change, or are you building competence that makes you undeniable? If you're a woman, ask yourself, am I betting on my abilities or betting on advocacy? Am I making my gender my identity or making my competence my identity? If you're a man, ask yourself, am I treating the capable women around me as equals who earned their position, or am I quietly wondering if they got special treatment? The answers matter. Because the world Rand envisioned isn't one where women need protection. It is one where everyone competes freely and the best rise regardless of gender. That's the world worth building. If this video challenged how you think about capability, victimhood, and freedom, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, do you agree with Rand's rejection of feminism, or do you think she missed something important? And if you want to keep seeing life through the Rand lens, where we break down culture, relationships, and philosophy through Ayn Rand's principles, subscribe to this channel. Next video, we're tackling something even more controversial: why Rand said sacrifice is evil. You won't want to miss it. I'll see you there.